in his policies.
Senator, I want to turn to the border crisis. You've been very active on this. You were part of the Gang of Eight that over a year ago passed a bipartisan bill in the Senate to deal with immigration reform. Now we see Senator John Cornyn and Congressman Henry Cuellar, both from Texas, introducing a Humane Act. That's what they're calling it, which they say would help solve the problem. It would change that 2008 law signed by President Bush that treats all unaccompanied children crossing the border the same. That's the changes that they want. Kids coming here would go before a judge within 7 days of being screened by the Department of Health and Human Services, and it authorizes up to 40 new judges to do that. Do you support this bill?
No. Look, clearly we have a crisis. It's a crisis of citizen security in Central America. It's something I've been talking about for several years, that our cuts into Latin America and Central America at a time in which Central American countries, weak in nature, generally poor, Honduras, the murder capital of the world per capita, the other two countries, the fifth largest in terms of homicides in their country, drug trafficking, gangs, and human smugglers. All of this is the confluence of what's happening in Central America. So you have parents that ultimately say to themselves, I take my 8-year-old and I send him on a 2,000-mile journey because if they stay, they most certainly will die. At least they have a risk. That's what's engaged here. That's what's involved. So this is a refugee crisis, and so what they're trying to do is undermine an existing law that was passed during President Bush and signed by him that I think would not allow a child who has the ability, who will have the ability to show in time that in fact he is fleeing because of a credible fear of possibly the loss of their life.
Senator Menendez, what about the people that say, listen, I feel bad for these kids, and what's going on in those countries is a tragedy, but it shouldn't be my problem or my issue to deal with in the United States. We have already our own issues with, tough economic, times. Why do we have to deal with this issue?
Well, look, we tell the Jordanians they have to deal with the Syrian refugee crisis. We tell countries in Africa they have to deal with the refugee crises. We tell others in this hemisphere, like when Haiti was suffering, that they have to deal with the flow into the Dominican Republic. So suddenly, when we have a legitimate refugee crisis, it's good for us to establish a standard all over the world, but for us not to be able to live with that responsibility here. I don't believe in that. And look, not every child will be able to make the case, but you cannot make your case in 72 hours. How do you produce the proof that your father was murdered in front of your eyes, or that the gang said to you, either join us or die? Right. You need time to make that case. You need to get witnesses, affidavits, and whatnot. And then if you have a credible case, you can make your case. But this is just going ahead and sending children who are really in fear of their lives back to the very same tragedy that they left from. And at the end of the day, if we don't do something about those Central American countries, all we're going to have is a revolving door. All we're going to do is be spending more money. We're going to spend nearly $4 billion to deal with the consequences of what's happening in Central America. We're looking at maybe $300 million in 5 countries to deal with the causes. That equation doesn't work in terms of solving this problem in our own interests.
Senator Robert Menendez from New Jersey, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.